have to call in.
Surprising.
Pharmacology.
Pound. If you do not know your attending number, press pound to continue.
All right, team.
Hi, Carrie.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. How are you today?
I'm fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm busy, but good.
Well, good. We definitely appreciate you getting on with us. We've got quite a project in front of us, and I don't want to leave any stones unturned. So Cindy reached out to you because we know your familiarity with Connect. I remember we had the in-service there probably about this time last year or so, and then you know, I really want to make sure that this time we go thoroughly through the analytics to make sure that for this project that we're working on that nobody gets left behind.
Absolutely. They did explain a little bit about what your intentions are, and I think that is the word I'm looking for, ambitious, and I commend you. So I'm here at your disposal for anything that you need for that. And I think we have a lot of really great tools that can help you to achieve those goals.
Well, good, good. Yeah, we kind of had this sprung on us very last minute. I knew it was coming, but I did not know essentially we have you know, no real heads up about it or anything, and the time constraints that they put upon us, and the days they wanted us to have the boot camp and all of this stuff. So by all means, it's definitely been more than what we bargained for. But anyhow, we will find a way to make it work.
Well, we have to love a challenge. We'll look at it that way, right?
Right, right.
Okay, so just to summarize, what you're doing is hosting boot camp. There are 2 weeks long.
Well, it's going to be over a number of weeks. It's actually going to be over 5 weeks, 1 day a week for 5 weeks. It'll be 4 hours at a time. And then on the 6th session, they will take their certification exam.
Okay.
So essentially, we've got them for 20 hours of intensive training. And of course, with the Connects, we know that we're going to have to flip the classroom, so to say. They're going to have to do more than their part, so to say, outside of class to be prepped and ready. So when Dr. Williams is in front of them, that it's review, not, you know, building the foundation.
Absolutely, right. So that sounds great. When I first read 2 weeks, I was a little concerned because I was,
yeah,
that's pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
But 5 is doable, and I think in my experience with teaching the CMA review class that I taught for probably about 10 years, we have about 20 hours allotted for that as well. I think that is in 10-week format, and we've got it in 6-week format, and I never noticed the significant in the pass rates or the student's ability to be successful when it's been condensed for the shorter format. I think what's more critical is having the 20 hours of instruction time. And with this particular class, one of the things that I start out by talking to my students about is the fact that it's a self-actualization class. We're not here to teach you new things. You learn how to do blood pressures. You learn the why behind everything. But you're here to understand and identify the areas of strength and weakness. Once I get them all pumped up about that, then we move on to, so what does this mean for you? This means that you're going to be doing a lot of work outside of class so that we can identify those areas. And this is kind of a two-pronged approach. The extra work outside of class allows them to identify areas of strength and weakness so they can work with them and study better. And it also allows them exposure to a lot of material. One of the frustrations that students have shared with me is that they, we didn't talk about this specifically in class. I said, well, it is in your book. If we were to talk about every single nuance to medical assisting in class, we'd be here for 6 years about it.
Right.
But you have to read and kind of think outside the box when it comes to those things. And having this material gives them that exposure. So if they see a similar question, they say, okay, well, I'm familiar with that. Maybe it's worded a little differently, but it does help them extract the right answer.
Right.
So,
and you're exactly right. We don't have to teach them any skills or anything like that. They are all people that have been working in the field. Maybe they were grandfathered in to be called a medical assistant. Maybe they let their credentials lapse. Maybe they just never got a credential, and now they're being held to task. So we don't have to do anything other than get them to pass their certification. So we don't have to worry about that component. We do realize that we will have to break some bad habits, so to say. The way that they did things for their particular physician's office or practice or whatever the case may be is not going to be the way things need to be thought of when they're taking an NHA certification exam. So we do realize that will be working against us.
Right, and I think that's a conversation that you have to have, because students, especially if they've been out in the field, especially the more mature ones, they will push back and say, well, this is the way I've done it for 10 years. It's not wrong. And, this is when you say, well, no, maybe it's not wrong, but we have to teach to a standard. And the test will ask you questions to that standard. So you kind of need to reframe your reference and get them kind of test worthy again. They've been out of test mode. And so during the 20 weeks of instruction, or the 20 hours of instruction, what I like to tell them that we focus on is we talk about test-taking strategies. We allow them to do their practice exams, outside of class. And then, I have them come into class and then we dissect them. And then we kind of go through some of the reports that I will show you to say, okay, so let's look at this question. Why did you answer the way that you answered? And some of them might say, well, this is how I've always done it, or it's the first thing that came to me. And we can dissect each question so that they understand, which is honestly one of the biggest struggles with these tests. Students don't know how to take a test.
Right.
They don't understand that in the question stem, they have to look for the who, what, or why. What am I actually answering? They'll answer a who question with a what answer.
Right.
Then they have to look at the distractors, and I tell them that there's going to be 4 to 5 distractors. Several of them you might be able to discard right away because you just know they're not correct. And usually you're left with 2 that could be 50-50. And then go with your instinct. If you have that feeling towards one of them and you're not quite sure, then go with the gut feeling before you pick the other one.
Sure.
Don't change your answers. you know, I have them research test-taking strategies, and they bring them to class, and we discuss those. We have them do practice exams, which are available in the Connect course. And the nice thing about the practice exams is that I have them set up so that they replicate the real deal.
Yeah.
They're allowed 30 seconds per question, just like the real exam. It's timed like the real exam, so they get accustomed to having a clock on their shoulder.
Exactly.
There's a lot of them. I think there's 180 questions, so they kind of get the numb butt thing going on, knowing that they're going to be sitting here looking at a computer answering these multiple choice questions. So your 20 hours can be focused around that and having them do a lot of reflection. So, you know, you've completed these chapters. You know, what areas do you think that you struggled with the most and why? Because when they're studying, it's a psychological thing that students naturally are drawn to study the flashcards or study the material that they know and they can answer and that make them feel smart. And we always want to push the other stuff that we're uncomfortable with off to the side because we're not getting it right. And we have to get them to flip that script so they have the ability to say, okay, if I know this stack of flashcards, I don't need to touch it again for a while. Every now and again, just for review. But I don't know this stack over here, so I need to get them into the confidence pile. And a lot of times, especially with adult learners, it's such a challenge to get them to retrain themselves on how they study, how they look at questions, and how they answer them. So this is what your instructor should think about focusing on during that instruction time and get them to want to make their own personal improvements, that self-actualization.
Yeah, we have it set up to where. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we'll be using Moini.
Okay, great.
And the exam again is going to be the NHA Certified Clinical Medical Assisting certification. And what we're doing is we are going to have 3 tests that will be taken in class. And I've groomed those tests. The first one I groomed to an hour's length. The second one, hour and 15 minutes, and the third one, an hour and a half. So we are going to get them, you know, into that mindset of having a clock running. But of course, we're also giving them wide open attempts on the other full-length practice exams that are on the McGraw-Hill site. So they should have ample opportunity to go over that material at home and be, you know, thoroughly, you know, confident by the time they have to sit for that thing for real. Now, we also have access to the NHA's resources as well. The company, the healthcare system that we're working with, has agreed to purchase those as well for the students, and they have modules as well and practice exams. But to be quite honest with you, we're only going to unveil those if we see a drastic deficit of, you know, of the students from the McGraw-Hill resources. I'm almost afraid of paralysis by analysis. And I combed through those NHA resources, and they are excellent. They are really, really strong. But at the same time, so are the resources of the Moini textbook on McGraw-Hill. So it's kind of like 6 of one, half dozen the other. And since we're going through Canvas to get to this, we're pretty much keeping it short and simple and only unveiling those if, like I said, it's a dire emergency and we need to, you know, throw even more resources at them. I think it's just going to be the opposite. I think it's keep it short and simple. I think I need to streamline the resources, which is what I did make in the course, because I think essentially I don't want to give them too much and just have them bogged down and lose sight of everything just because they're just so overwhelmed with so much information.
Yep, yeah, and I fully agree with that, because, you know, we can throw all these resources up for them and it may just receive repellent. I know I sometimes get that information overload mentality.
Sure.
So in the Connect course, here is just an example of one of my 8-week courses that I've thrown up the Connect video tutorials, which will be helpful to your students because they'll likely be brand new to Connect.
Yeah.
They may look at them and they may find that it's intuitive enough that they don't have to. And I just included some information about the exam. This is the CMA exam where they have the content outline. It's kind of like a study guide.
Right.
Again, just extra information. This is something that I'm working on with a coworker. One of the nice things about Connect, and this all depends on the time that you have to put into it. I'll show you this one here. We're working on what's called a direct measure, so that all of the students across the system will take the same exact exam, and we wanted it to line up exactly with the CMA content outline. So we made this test, and Connect allows us to input the questions. These are our own questions. So it allows us to input the questions, and then we can put in categories so we can report on our own test, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, we did that too. I painstakingly put in a test on Connect that was 170 questions. So, yeah.
So you get it, right?
Oh, Lord have mercy, yeah.
Absolutely correct.
I mean,
it's labor intense, but it's a cool feature.
It is.
To have that ability to do reporting.
I just don't ever want to do it again.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, we've been doing it in 2-hour increments over WebEx, and that was something that I was working on this morning, and I was like, I can't do more than 2 hours at a time. We just have to schedule a lot of these. So what I had done for my course is I split it up into several chapters. Now, with the Learn Smart, and you're familiar with Learn Smart, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so with the Learn Smart, you can make this a mandatory part of the thing, or you can let it be as an extra resource. But one of the nice things about the Learn Smart is that it provides the guided reading for them. So students that have a hard time just picking up a textbook and reading a chapter cover to cover can kind of interact with it by using the Learn Smart. And that's how I sell it to the students. You know, I say, if you're not the person that wants to sit down and just read for the sake of reading, do it with the Learn Smart because it asks you to engage with it, which
Right.
is appealing to some people.
Yeah, we're actually building.
And then, you know, I've included the.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I was going to say we are building around the Learn Smart. The Learn Smart is going to be the workhorse of the course, essentially.
Okay.
So yeah, because I fully believe in their adaptive learning tools on Connect. So it's definitely going to be the workhorse, and that'll also, we can go back into the missed question bank and all that kind of stuff. And we do have the reviews on there too that we're going to you know, include in what they're going to be doing outside of class, homework for lack of a better way to put it. But it'll be the reviews and the Learn Smarts ultimately serving as you know, the real workhorse of getting material across, and then the practice tests will, you know, serve, for lack of a better way to put it, as just a way to build up their mental muscles to be able to sit there for, you know, 3 hours and 30 minutes and be able to produce the goods. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I tell my students. You know, honestly, they score in the 60s, 70s, and some of the really smart ones might score 80s. Maybe I'll have an outlier that's in the 90s for one of those. But and I tell them it's a very low valuation of their course. But I let them know it's not all about the grade in that test. It's the exposure to the questions. Like you said, a mental fortitude of being able to get through 180 questions.
Right.
So that's where the value is with that.
Exactly.
I also created some midterm and anatomy refreshers as well as topical refreshers like the interpersonal communication. What I did was I pulled these over from other resources. They were assignments I made in other with other textbooks, and I pulled them over. So if you're interested in these, all it is, they are like 25 to 40 questions of topic information, just again for that exposure. And if you're interested in those, I can share those with your Connect account. You could assign them, or you could make a new group for them and just say extra practice for the ambitious students or whatever you want. But I found that students typically struggle with going back to the didactic functions of the midterm and the anatomy, especially if they've been out in the field and they, maybe are working in a specialty where they're really, really great at cardiovascular terms and anatomy, but they can't remember other body systems.
Sure.
So if you're interested, I'd be happy to share these with you. You can make them.
You know what? I wouldn't mind getting it and having it in our back pocket. I'm just afraid, again, to put too much content in there and overwhelm them.
Yeah.
From what I've understood of the group that we're going to get, we do have a lot of them who are older, been in the field for quite a while, and they are not very technologically savvy, and I'm almost afraid to do too much and really blow them out of the water. And if they see too much on Connect, I'm afraid they're just going to throw their hands up in the air and say, I can't do this, and that they're defeated before they even get started. So I wouldn't mind if you could share those to potentially use them if we would absolutely need them, but probably adding anything else, probably not at this point.
Okay. And I completely understand that, especially with the challenge of having some people who may not be 100% on board with technology, or not having a lot of exposure to it.
Well, another
pose a problem for them.
Yeah, another facility in the area had a bunch of medical assistants who weren't certified, and they reached out to the ECPI campus on the other side of town for a boot camp. And as it turned out, the technology was such, they didn't really go into enough depth to really help them master the technology and stuff, that became more of what they focused on. And it was kind of a, they still had a successful outcome, but they lost a lot of critical time, and people really got overly stressed and upset because they just couldn't, navigate through the LMS and everything like that. So for our boot camp, that first night during orientation, there's practically no orientation related to the CCMA. All the orientation is really going to be related to technology and making sure when you walk out there that you can navigate Canvas. And they've even simplified our Canvas platform for this to where there's only 3 buttons and there should be no way to get lost. And then, of course, being able to navigate Connect. And one of those 3 buttons on Canvas directly links you right into the Connect Learn Smarts and Reviews and Practice Exams. The other button on Canvas links you into PowerPoints. If that's your cup of tea, you've got PowerPoints on there too for all the material that's covered. And so anyhow, we've tried to simplify everything as much as possible and streamline the total amount of resources available to the students so we don't overwhelm them.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
They can be, and it's really nice that Connect integrates so well with Canvas. They can just go in there and put their module assignments.
Right.
Not have to worry about another platform. Okay. So for the Connect report, do you have a lot of familiarity with the report?
Yes.
Side of things?
And this is where I really need your insight, Amy, because I mean, I've used them, but I have not maximized it. One of the reasons why, and I mean, I'll fall on my sword with this, is just time. With us being 5 hours per class and all the other obligations and so on. I mean, a lot of times I get to do cursory scans of analytics, and then there's times where I don't even get to do that. When I was lucky enough to go to Baltimore and been on some webinars with Dr. Hoover since, gosh, he has just uncovered everything in that anatomy and physiology Connect to be able to keep the pulse, to find the pulse of his students and everything. And I could have obviously reached out to him, but more importantly, this is an A&P. This is, certification for the medical assistant. And so I was hoping to find an SME that was their forte. And of course, that's where Cindy and Roxanne hooked me back up with you. So this is where I think we really need as much training as to what you are looking at to make sure that everything that's going to be a concept assessed on that certification exam is, in good standing with each student.
Absolutely. So there are a lot of great reports, and I totally get the time factor and the ability to use them the way that it would be really cool to use them.
Right.
It's a luxury in some of these cases, but in a boot camp like this, I think that the reports are going to be really important. As I said, I often pull them up on the whiteboard to the students, and we go through, I don't show them each other's grades, but
of course,
we go through the questions, we look at how many got each question wrong, so we can identify where their skills might be lacking or where their knowledge needs a little bit of a boost. So in the reports area, the assignment results, that's pretty standard. This is where you get the basic assignment category results. Student performance goes by individual students. The assignment statistics.
Well, hey, let me drop one little additional nugget in now that the door's shut and there's nobody else in here but Dr. Williams and myself. They essentially, ECPI was assured this entity that they'll have 100% pass rate, and so we're up against that. And anyway, we're going to have to give this hospital system insight as to attendance, and if we see that some students are not performing the way that they should, as a way to CYOB, I want to have every report possible to show that this person is not putting in the work, or that they are just not comprehending anything. They're putting in the work, but they're just, their comprehension is, and that we can't be the ones at fault if we have somebody who is just beyond help, for lack of a better way to put that. And I hope it never comes to that, but essentially they told us that we got to get everybody 100%. Excuse me, we have to have 100% passing rate on that CCMA.
Right, which
yeah, that's what we said too. Yeah.
I agree that the best defense was a good offense, and just because a student's name is on the roster doesn't mean they're going to be putting in the effort that they need to be successful.
And ultimately, their jobs are on the line. So, I mean, if they don't get a certification, then they will lose their job. So I would hope that they are massively motivated individuals with that, kind of pressure on them. But I'm also worried that some of them may just fold up under the pressure, and essentially they fold up, but yet we're the ones who are at fault. So.
Right. And I think with a promise like that I would want to develop some sort of checklist or document stating that, these results can be achieved if. So if they fail to meet one of the criteria, you've got something there that's tangible. You can say, yeah, but we're not miracle workers. We can't dump the information into their heads. So you're not accountable for their lack of effort or aptitude in the work that they put in.
Right.
So, yeah, that's kind of scary, but.
You don't happen to have a document like that right at the tips of your fingers, do you?
I do not.
Yeah.
I've never made a promise like that.
I didn't make the promise. We definitely did not make that promise.
I know you didn't.
The suits did, and of course,
If you ever did something like that.
Yeah.
My tongue was bloody. I'd be biting it so hard.
Yeah, and so
I feel for your position of
ultimately, if it's successful, we will get none of the credit. But of course, if it's not successful, we'll get all the blame.
Yeah, pretty much. So, if you started to develop something, I wanted you to look it over for ideas of what else we could add to it. I'm absolutely happy to help you with that.
Okay, I may have to do that.
Because,
That's
I can tell that you are 100% committed, but I also know that there are just some students who think it's just enough to show up, and I've got one right now who hasn't turned in a stick, not a piece of homework yet, and we're in week 6. And I've been talking to her every week, and I said, you're not going to pass your program. I don't know what to tell you.
right.
And I know that I'm responsible for my outcomes, but short of going to her house and taping her to the chair in front of the computer, I don't know what to do with her.
Yeah, and we are.
You have to own it too.
Yeah, we're strapped with that every day with ABHES, but this is even a different level of that. Yeah.
Well, this is a relationship you have with your entity as well. There's a lot at stake, and I feel for your position.
Yeah.
I really do. I was stunned when I read that. I said, what? 100%. No pressure.
Right.
None whatsoever. Okay, so yeah, with the assignment results or the student performance then, this report, let's go back to this important. So we pull up your student information. This is where you would be able to demonstrate exactly the assignments that each student did. And I would recommend, at the end of the boot camp or during the boot camp, to just have a student folder on each of them where you put in in your documents.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And then you print this up.
Well, they've told.
If there are any questions after the fact, or if you need to review the process for process improvement, you can say, well, this is what we're looking at. This is what this individual student did. So this ties right into them. And if they don't perform well on something and you're having a conversation with them one-on-one, you can say, okay, let's say that this was her only score was 56. You can pull it up down and you can do a deeper dive into which ones did you get wrong, and you can identify that information for them. There are, in the performance area, this will give all of the information. So they've got the ABHES and the KHES categories. It will separate it out by learning outcomes. So you can drill down pretty deep with the student performance, especially if you're working with them one-on-one. You can, during your first class, and I would reinforce this with every class, you can encourage them to look at their own report so they can understand you didn't just get a 70%, but I got this information wrong or this information. And of course, the goal is to have more green bars than red bars.
Right.
Obviously. So you can dig down pretty deep in the student performance area by doing that. What you're going to want to look at on a macro level in the classroom could be your item analysis. So let's say you have them do one of the practice exams, you can view the report, and this excludes any any student identifiers. So it's safe to put up on the board. You're not violating any FERPA regulations when you do that. You can click on, I guess you are if you go down to that. Which one? Okay, so this will tell you by item. If you don't open it up, it won't give you the student. But if you do, you can identify which students got which answers correct. This will tell you, so we've got 50%. Obviously, there's only 2 students that have completed this one, but 50% means one got it right, one got it wrong. Whereas 0%, they both got it wrong.
Right.
Whereas 100%, they both got it right. So if you've got a group of 10 students and there's 0%, then in your classroom, you're going to know that this question is something that you need to cover again, or you need to talk to them about, or pull it up on the board, because they're really lacking information with this.
Yeah, I believe.
There's only 2 students, but.
Right. We had a meeting yesterday, and I believe sometime yesterday evening was going to be the deadline for any of those employees to go ahead and submit that they wanted to be part of the boot camp. So today we should have a roster. I'd heard last week a tentative number at least was 23 for a day or an evening session, and then 13, I believe, for the Saturday session. So so we're looking at what, 36 people, or estimate
Okay,
at least.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. And, you know, if you wanted, will they all be in one class, or will you have several instructors for them?
No, we'll have one instructor. It'll be Dr. Williams, who's sitting here by my side. She'll be the one that teaches the evening class, and then she'll also be the one that teaches the Saturday class. We were told not to let anybody flip and flop back and forth between, like, you know, if they didn't get it Wednesday evening, come to the Saturday class. We were told not to do that. I would still like to do that, but anyhow, we were told not to do that either. So anyway, so essentially they'll get, you know, one class on the material.
It will affect the logistics and trying to figure out, because what she just showed, I'd be able to gauge that particular class and what I'm going to address. But if you have people going back and forth, it'll make it more difficult. That, you know, the 5 people who show up on Saturday may have gotten it, and then they're impeding what I'm trying to teach the Saturday.
It does skew the data. Yes. You're exactly right. That's a good point. So if they think they need more help, then my role in this is going to be tutoring outside of the normal class time. So if we get somebody that's an outlier that needs additional time, instead of coming to the actual class, we'll have to arrange time to tutor them, to coach them up.
Right, and that's a great place to do that one-on-one, pulling up their Connect report to try to identify where do we start with the tutoring. If they were allowed to do 2 classes, to go to each class, then I would recommend doing only one Connect account and having both of the classes blended. So you're seeing all 36 students' data in one area, which is kind of neat to have a large data group. But if the Connect courses are going to be separated, then I agree it would be really hard to be teaching the results of one student who may not have been a part of that group.
Yeah, and that's what they've already done. They've set it up into two groups. So yeah, there'd be no way to do that. And it's probably best now that you know, Dr. Williams and yourself have both, you know, been on the same page with that. Yeah, I'd say you're right. There could be a skewing of the data that might influence what gets covered, and that might not necessarily be good.
Right. There just may be gaps.
Yeah.
In some of the coverage, you know, if the students are bouncing back and forth. Plus, it's harder to keep track of the attendance.
Yeah.
And you definitely want to do that for the hospital group.
Yeah, and I know we're going to have to report that, but like I said, I'm even wondering if there won't be more to report than that ultimately. But just for our own purposes, you know, you talked about having a folder for each student, and you know, we've been told that you know, we both have to be reviewing the analytics and stuff. Which, trust me, they didn't have to tell me to do that. But what I was essentially thinking is, one of us one day of the week checks it, and then the other one comes back and looks over their shoulder, and then later in the week the other one takes point and then has backup from the other one. But all of that data ends up going into their folder, and if we start seeing a few weeks into the boot camp that they are just not you know, doing what they need to do, then we put that in their HR manager's hand and let them, so to say, do something about it and try to keep ourselves from getting run over by the bus.
Right, yeah, definitely. You want interventions, you want proof to back up what you're doing, and, you know, then the hospital entity deserves that information if they're paying for these courses too. They should know if their employees are being diligent with it.
Right.
So that's the the item analysis. It'll tell you at a glance the percentage of students that got the question right or wrong in the class. So you can set a threshold, let's say a threshold of 75% or 78%, where if 78% or less students got that question right, then that's something you're going to talk about in class even just briefly, just going over the question and saying, okay, why did you answer it this way? Maybe you were picking the wrong type of question or answer or something like that. For the category analysis, that's kind of the same thing. So with the category analysis, it asks you to select a category. So let's say that you wanted to, I've got a million categories in here. Let's say that you wanted to pull up ad hoc categories that are in here somewhere. That one. You can click on the category that you'd like, then click View Report, and it'll pull up that assignment, let you know how many students submitted it, what their overall how many attempts were, and how many questions fall into those categories. You can further break it down by pulling up the question itself. So if, again, you have a category score that's really low, you can pull up the question and have a discussion around it. Say, okay, well, why are you answering the question the way that you did? Because 50% of the class said it like this. So that's one way to remediate the larger group without singling out particular students, without making anybody feel embarrassed. And it can have kind of some discussions and dialogue around it. Sometimes one of the challenges is getting people to talk in classes like this, especially if they're identifying something that they did wrong. So I would encourage it like an icebreaker early on to kind of get them a little bit more comfortable with themselves and each other. And hopefully that will help from being a cricket kind of environment. We've all seen those, right, where the students just don't respond.
Right.
But,
and I'm kind of wondering, I don't know if these people will like kind of filter into the classes as, oh, all of these people are from such and such OBGYN practice, and all these people are in such and such cancer practice, and so on. I don't know if that's how the participants will fall or not. So I'm kind of worried they may be somewhat cliquish or whatever the case may be. So.
Yeah.
And animosity.
That could happen too if they have prior relationships. And,
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I'd love to know how it goes for you. So if you want to drop me an email anytime and say, hey, this is working out really well.
Well, you and I become friends, so you better believe I'm going to be reaching out to any daggone resource I can. I mean, I will definitely keep you in the loop because ultimately, I like to help my friends out. So if you're ever, in a position like this, or, ultimately, I also want to find out what we can do on a day-to-day basis with our own students. Maybe there's something we can do with our own students from such a, for lack of a better way to put it, desperate situation as this is, that maybe we find something that helps them. So I want us to benefit from it. I don't want to go through all this stress and strain. I mean, for nothing but this boot camp, and then once it comes and goes, then it's all for naught. We just kind of put it away and let it collect dust. I mean, I want this to be something that is, foundational that we can expand upon.
Yeah, and you're investing a lot of time and effort in this.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Yes.
Where you finding the time, I don't know.
Lack of sleep and no weekends. That's pretty much what it's come to.
Right. And their families always love that, right?
Oh, Lord. Yeah. I definitely don't want to go down that road because, I'm P&G in my house.
Oh, no.
Persona non grata.
Oh.
Okay, so we also have the at-risk student report, which this report is simple, it's colorful, it's visual, and you can click on this, well, you can click on any of them 1,000 times a day, but the at-risk student report updates constantly and gives you a snapshot of how the students are doing at any given moment. And one of the nice things, it does what it says it does. It can identify students who are at risk based on Connect's algorithm of online engagement. And what that means is that it looks at how many times the student has gone online, the time that they spend on each assignment. Are they just clicking through to get through the assignment and they don't care what the answers are? So it kind of takes the time analysis, accuracy, correctness, and the amount of logins, and it sets up a system of 1 to 10 of what their engagement is. So you can see that these two students have really excellent engagement, which, you know, does, this is what I know of them, and so this means that they're going on, they're doing the assignments, they're being diligent. The one who's in the yellow could use a little work. She's doing her stuff, but really she's got a couple of missing assignments, and a few of them that are in the 70s because she just didn't care to research any of the answers. And then, of course, the one who hasn't done anything. So at a glance, you're going to be able to identify students who are at risk. So if you are 3 weeks in to the boot camp and you're running this analysis that takes 2 seconds, you can note each student's success and how they are right there. So maybe you run it before each class period so that you can have a private conversation with the student and say, you know, we really need to see what you're doing, what can we do to help, and to kind of coach them into getting on the system and finding out what their barriers to success are. I use this report a lot just to get that snapshot of how many students are doing without having to mentally pull together their grades or look at everything as a whole. This kind of gives me that information for those interventions. You can send messages directly to the student if they're in the yellow or red areas. It's just a good, clean visual report. Very simple, but it does what it needs to do.
Hey, before you move, I've seen this report, but you know, I'll be honest with you. Dr. Hoover sold me on going into the missed questions bank more than anything else, and I've kind of gone with that, and then also category analysis and assignment statistics, and I've only paid, you know, very, very brief lip service to this report. But you're exactly right. We need to essentially do this at-risk report probably every day just to see where the students, if they are interacting with this stuff on a regular basis. Where can we get, like, for example, Kanisha Valerio, does it, if we click on that, does it give like time, like the actual amount of time that she has been on the assignment?
Let me go into Mariah because Kanisha really hasn't done anything. So it'll pull up her.
Got it. Okay, this is what we need. Yep.
The time that they started, the days that they've gone on.
I look at this all the time.
Okay. Well, you're more familiar with it. Like I said, honestly, I haven't done much with it.
Yeah, I actually give feedback to students on this, but when they say, oh, I submitted, and I'm like, no, you actually didn't start it until the day after it was due. And I told you have to complete the Learn Smart before it's due, so you will get a 0 on that, but you still have time to work on the practice or homework or whatever. I also use this when I'm averaging out there, you know, you can see the attempts, and I'll tell them just because you do more attempts doesn't mean that you're going to get necessarily a better grade, because it's giving you the average of each time you're attempting to do it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah, with the at-risk, I think that it's a really easy report to pull up. You just look at it properly. Oh, there ain't. Okay. So you just click and it'll take you there if your internet is not slow. Thinking. And you can click on the student's name to pull up that information and have those discussions with them, or identify what the actual issue is. Is it because they're not getting the material? Mm-hmm. Is it because they're not going in to do the work, or is it because they're going in and just clicking A for every answer and getting 30% results?
Right.
So it's a quick and easy report. Not a deep analytic, but it will give you an at-a-glance feel for how the class is doing overall.
Yeah.
Then when we go into the Learn Smart report, and this, I know I've heard Dr. Hoover speak several times, and I know that he really does like the Learn Smart reports, and these are very helpful to the students that are doing the Learn Smart, especially if they're assessing themselves. So during your class one, where you're going through the information, and some of it might start sailing over their heads, and you might need to reinforce it a few times, but encourage them to go into their own report and find out what their missed questions are.
Right. Yeah, he's a big proponent of that.
Up, I think it looks a little bit different for them. But your questions will come up looking like this. Go back to my phone here. Okay, so this is the student view here. And if I were going into my Learn Smart, I would begin. When you're talking to the students for that first class, I definitely recommend that people Learn Smart up for them. In my experience, they typically get confused about what Learn Smart is. They start to read it, but they don't realize that there's a practice component to them to Learn Smart sometimes. So they can pull up chapter. Hey, I get it. All right, and okay, so let's say that they are in the reading area. A lot of students don't realize that they can toggle back and forth between the reading and the practice. I've had students comment to me, well, everything is grayed out, and that's pretty stupid. They don't realize that they can click on the gray portions and get the information, and that they can toggle using the next and the previous. Trying to go to a section with reading. So sometimes pulling this up and just going through it for 4 minutes gives them that visual, so when they see the grayed out areas, they know, okay, I just need to click on that. I don't only have to read the highlight. One of my students said that once. Well, that's done. You've highlighted everything for me, and that's all I can read. No, just click on it. You can read everything. And then if they're in this screen, many of them don't realize that in order to complete Learn Smart, they have to go to practice, which takes them to their question. Obviously, it's giving me the answer because I'm an instructor. But then from here, they can go to read about this, which takes them directly to the highlighting that links to that particular question.
Hey.
So once they can understand how to use Learn Smart, they get better with it, and they start to like it better.
Hey, I haven't missed something on Connect where the Connect will read it for them, will it? It won't read it out loud for them, will it?
Let me see here. There is the audio. I've got a lot of little squares. Okay, oh, these are highlights on and off. There's a coach. I do know that there is an audio book function, but I'm not sure.
That's just in the ebook, though, isn't it? They're going to get the ebook. Yeah, but I'm kind of worried, again, paralysis by analysis, having so much, if they'll think to flip back and forth between the ebook and the Learn Smart. That was one of the things I liked about those NHA resources is they would, you could turn it on and it would read, essentially it would read what you guys have highlighted, that's kind of what it would read. So that was kind of nice because I could be reading along and hearing it and it really engaged, you know, visual and auditory learning.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. I'm going to write that down because they're always looking for new ideas. And I know they're working on a SmartBook 2.0, which will have a lot better functionality. It's going to change a little bit, but...
Can they get it to us by next week?
That would be great.
Wouldn't it though?
But probably not.
Yeah.
Read to students. Okay, but I think that's a really great idea. If I find anything otherwise, that there is a way to check in the audio, but I'm not seeing it in here.
I haven't been able to find it, and I've probed and probed and probed. So I thought maybe there was a, maybe you had a magic wand and could make something appear that would do it. But yeah, I just don't think it's there.
I don't think so. For now, though, let's toggle back and forth.
Right.
So you'll definitely want to educate them to do that clicking. And if they get stuck and learn smart and they say, well, I don't know how to get back to my regular exercises, I always tell them, all roads lead back to the menu bar. Just go to the little hamburger bar on top, and you can click Leave Smart Books to get back to Connect. And these are just the things that I know you guys know them, but I've had a lot of students that have challenges with it, and I know that you're going to be working with a really tight timeline. You're going to want to give the students as many hints as you can about how to effectively navigate.
Yeah, Amy, that's just it. We can't leave any stones unturned. I brought up to our campus president that after they took one of the practice tests that was going to be timed in class, could we have those students move out of the classroom into another room so they could potentially be going ahead and studying for that last little bit? There are going to be time constraints on it, but some might whisk right through it and have 20 minutes left. I want that 20 minutes to be useful. And she's like, no, she's like, we have some insight as to the people that are going to be coming, and we're afraid that if we start having them change rooms, that might start to get confusing for them. So anyhow, I was like, oh, are you kidding me? And these people are in healthcare, and I'm sending my grandmother to these people, and they're going to be shaken up if we just change rooms, like literally across the hall. But that was a no-go. So anyhow, yeah, I don't want to leave any stone unturned. Yeah.
Oh man.
Now you see what we're up against, right?
Working on computers, right?
What now?
Are they going to be working on computers in the classroom?
Yeah, the ECPI is issuing all of them tablets, just like our students.
Okay. Oh wow.
Okay. And I told them, is there any way we can scrub that tablet to where there is literally nothing else on it but Canvas to open up the McGraw-Hill resources, because I don't want any extra buttons on there. I don't want anything. And of course, they cannot do that. So, I wanted to keep it as short and simple as possible, and anything superfluous, get rid of it, but no. So anyhow, it will be a standard tablet that we issue our students.
Okay, that's really cool. If they don't leave the room, you could have them work on other things quietly. Maybe, if they finish their test,
right.
Say, okay, once you finish the test, go into
your missed questions bank or something like that.
Right. Until the end of class. I would definitely set a precedent early that there's an expectation that class starts on time and we stay all the way till the end. Because, otherwise, if you set that time test and they're there and they start 2 hours prior to the end of class, they're just going to try to get through it to get out of there faster.
Right.
Rather than thinking and really absorbing what they're doing.
I agree. We've already, we're definitely on the same page with that expectations are going to be set, breaks and all that stuff are going to be discussed and adhered to, and so on and so forth. But yeah, we're going to need every minute of those 4 hours per class. So, yeah.
Right. And if people bolt early, make sure you document it.
Oh, you better believe that too.
So you could say, yeah, this person did come every day, but they only stayed for 45 minutes.
Right.
That might help you down the road.
Well, and that's just it. If I understood right, the comment made about 100% pass rate got made in front of the people who would be sitting in those classes. So it wasn't like that was something said behind closed doors, high level administration from one entity, high level administration to the other entity, to us. It was said in the open. So, Yeah, I mean, I don't want them thinking they can come in here and not do anything. And again, we pull out our Harry Potter wand and make everything right. So,
You know, you've got a great point because any statement that's made is up to the individual's interpretation. And some people may interpret what they heard as, we'll make sure you pass, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
and don't think I haven't thought about that too.
We'll make sure you pass.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it. We are,
Again, that'll be a great dialogue for the opening class. You know, you've got to be here. You've got to work. We're working towards that 100%, but you've got to put that effort in. Let them know right up front that this isn't you take the class, you show up, and we'll get you through.
right, right.
You got to
Yeah.
study.
But I do know that there will be people who heard that message.
Yeah, and I would definitely worry about that too.
And definitely tell them that it's a proctored third-party exam. You have nothing to do with the content or the results. That's them. That's on them. So they're clear from the onset that they have to put that effort in. Another thing we can show them are the reports within LearnSmart. So there are kind of two sets of reports. One of them is the ones that live in Connect, which we just went through, and then the others are the LearnSmart reports, where we can go through the current learning status. I don't know why my internet is so slow. This is where we would find our missed questions. This is kind of where that self-actualization piece comes in, where you can say, go to the most challenging LOs to find out what topics stump you. We're probably going to find that more of them do much better in clinical than they do in the administrative and general section. For example, if they work as a clinical MA, but they don't have to deal with postage and letter sending, then that's not going to be their strong suit. So the most challenging learning outcomes or learning objectives will help them to understand personally, this is an area that you're not doing so great. Phlebotomy, you're doing great. And then they can use that to study from there. Try to refresh. This has been a week of technology snafus all week long. I apologize if you have to look at all of this.
Oh, that's okay.
They don't need to necessarily be in a chapter to go to their report. They just use the menu bar and the side there. Okay. So, the most challenging learning outcomes. Because I'm going in as an instructor, not sharing any real information with me, but this is how it would come up. It would give them their incorrectly answered cards, the frequency of them. Then they can go into self-assessment mode. The self-assessment mode is another self-actualization piece where students should understand why they're answering the question, obviously to get the right answer, but then they're going to be asked how sure are you? I'm sure, I'm pretty sure, I'm kind of not sure, I have no clue. And they may not understand why they're answering that piece of it. And so I think a little bit of education to them to say, if you got something right, but you put down that you're unaware that you know the answer, then you really didn't get it right. You made a lucky guess.
Right.
The same thing if you said, I know the answer, 100% I know this answer, and you got it wrong, then obviously you think you know something that you don't. So using this area here and using the percentages can help them to identify topics that they thought they knew that they were confident with, but they need more help with, or that they need to increase their confidence in some of the areas, which would be in this section, or that they are making lucky guesses. So that's where the self-assessment comes in. The tree of knowledge, I don't know if you've ever seen this one before.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of a nonsensical visual, but the students do like it. As they answer their questions, this tree will sprout branches, it'll sprout leaves, and then at the end it'll be a big bushy tree.
Right.
And it just kind of gives them a visual on their progress and serves as a motivator. It really has no other purpose other than that, but students seem to like it. And then for the really motivated students, you can let them know that they can make their own practice quizzes. So they can go into practice quiz, they can talk about the topics that they want to add. So when they find their most challenging learning outcomes and their missed questions, they can identify the topics that they don't do well in, and they can click these. They can say, maybe I want, there's 299 questions available in these 4 categories, so maybe I want to make a quiz with 75 of them. And then it will start the quiz. And it'll give these questions back to the students so that they can have a laser focus on the learning outcomes that they need the most help with. And this is where that whole self-actualization piece comes in, where we're teaching them to understand their own strengths and weaknesses so that they can be better studiers and be smarter about the way that they work when they're outside of their classroom. I know that the technology piece is challenging, but you may have some students that want to do the full circle evaluation, or this might be something that you can work with them in class and have them pull up together as a group your most challenging learning outcomes. Write down the top 5 that you struggle with the most, then make yourself a practice quiz. So if they're doing this in the classroom with you, they can ask you if they have any technology questions as you're doing it. So you can say, okay, we'll pick 50 questions. Let's take half an hour of the class time and do them. Or maybe this is what they can work on after they've completed the quiz or the practice test and they're waiting until the end of class. So there's a lot of ways that you can use this and still massage their lack of technology skills. But this is kind of a big deal if you fully utilize the idea of missed questions, the challenging learning outcomes, and then having them set up practice quizzes based on their areas of biggest weakness. And this is what I found is really helpful for students to focus their energies in the right places. Like I said, many of them are probably going to be really good clinically, and the administrative kind of seems to fall off the shelf a little bit when they're not using those skills daily.
Yeah, and I'm worried, to be honest with you, that some of them were on the job trained and, just for lack of a better way to put it, given the title of medical assistant, and that their skill set and foundation knowledge is going to be very, very poor. So yeah, I definitely worry about that.
Yeah. And that's true too, that some of them may have been just kind of trained for the position and they're getting into the test based on work experience.
Exactly, yes.
They may not be good test takers.
Yeah.
They will probably not be good test takers. Their reading comprehension might be low. They might not be able to pick out the right information to make an educated answer choice.
Agreed on all that, yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that you need to focus on in the classroom as well.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff you can do.
Yeah.
And I'm so pleased to hear that you've got 20 hours that you can work with them. You will fill those 4 hours. You will, but it's nice that you have a good chunk of time to really spend with them at one time each week. And then send them off to do their homework with the expectation, of course, that ready by the next class period.
Well,
So you don't have the people who are thinking, well, this isn't really a college course for college credit,
Right.
so I can just turn it all in the day before the test and be good.
right.
We don't want them to do that. Kind of defeats the purpose.
Well, that's just it. We were really hoping that before they even come to the first class, they'll have an orientation class, and then they'll come to the first class. What we were really hoping is there could have been some sort of mandatory, you need to do, you know, the assignments leading into week 1 before you even get to class. But they said that we could not put that type of time constraint on it, because I really wanted to have an assessment at least before they came in there, so we could kind of gauge where everybody is starting at. But even that is going to be essentially the first assignment that they do in class is a brief overview of the class, and then boom, we get them right into an exam, a timed exam, just to see where they stand. So again, that's class time that we're burning up, that I would much rather already have had them taking an assessment outside of class and have, say, the work assigned for week 1 already completed before they come into class, so that way we would have, you know, a pretty good idea of right off the bat before we even walked in there what needed to be focused on. But like I said, we don't have that luxury either.
We're tying our hands a lot in a lot of things.
Yeah, the more we sit here and talk, the
that
more
would be ideal.
Frustrating.
Totally. I would definitely keep a list of suggested best practices, so that way when you've gone through one round of this, you can go to people and say, listen, this is great, but we learned a lot from this first round, and we've got data and information to show that it would be even better if we could do this. And maybe they'll say, okay, well, you can give 2 free assignments before the class begins, that you can get right into the material. And,
right.
You know, I know at my institution, they rarely allow us to make decisions that they don't buy into unless we have data to support it.
Right.
Show me the data, run through it once, suffer, and then we'll think about what you're suggesting.
Right.
So, yeah, keep a list of good things, bad things, ugly things, and, you know, just, that'll help with the continual process improvement. And certainly keep records on all of those students, and be very clear up front about their level of involvement. And I think it would be great to have an initial practice exam, because they're probably not going to do very well. And that can be a double-edged sword, because it might be discouraging to them, and you don't want them to say, you know what, I'm out. But it might also be scary enough that they put in the effort they need to. And to let them know early on, you know, don't expect a great grade, don't let it discourage you, but this is a kind of assessment of where you're at, and we want to get you improved. The idea is that each week you're doing better than you were the week before. That can help keep them motivated. We don't want to scare anybody away, but they also can't come into it thinking that they're great and they've got it in the bag and it's
Right.
a given. So they do have to work.
Right. Well, I don't know. I've explored a lot of different options, you know, and I asked campus administration, are they essentially letting us swing the axe for employees that they want to just go ahead and get rid of, but they want to make us the heavies, or what? And, you know, I was assured that that was not the idea, but at the same time, I do kind of wonder if that may not be the case, that they may have, because what's happening is this hospital system is phasing out their LPNs, and they're going to be replaced by certified medical assistants, which is a huge coup for us as medical assistants. But I don't want any Tom, Dick, or Harry who's just been given, you know, that credential, you know, to be the one that's, you know, in that role. And so ultimately, the goal is to have those CMA practicing at the very top end of their scope of practice. And from the sounds of it, some feedback we've got, I would say there's going to be some people who cannot achieve that level. And like I said, which kind of led me to wonder, are they just making us out to be the fall guys, you know? So, so like I said, I've definitely voiced my concerns from a lot of different angles.
And, you know, even if that were the case, you know, you being the line in the sand with whether or not they made the cut. That's one thing if it weren't for the promise, which I'm putting in air quotes right now.
Yeah.
The promise kind of hurts the idea of doing that. So I hope that's not the case. Because, you know, on the one hand, their objective might be one thing, but the promise kind of cancels it out. So
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case.
Well, I mean, we've just got a lot of mixed signals about it. The fact that our campus was supposed to be the one that pioneered it, and then after this group went through the boot camp, then the Virginia Beach campus was supposed to get our course and roll it out to the facility that's down in that area. Well, now, essentially, they're rolling it out at the exact same time we are. So, you know, so things have changed all along. It's been a fluid situation all along. And so, like I said, I really just don't know where the line in the sand is drawn, so to say.
Right. Well, I guess, you know, you do your best with each and every student, and you teach objectively and give everybody the same amount of work, and students will decide whether they can do it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
And there may be not 100% pass rate, because, I mean, like I said, if I could make some of my students do the work, that would be great, but you can't make somebody do something like that. So keep your data.
Yeah.
And your proof and your rationale and your offensive information so that you can defend yourself if necessary. And I think, you know, just do the best you can with the entire group. And
hey,
it'll become clear which ones have got it and which ones don't.
Yeah. Those reports can't all be printed out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They can be exported to a Excel spreadsheet, and they can be printed. You know, one of the things that you can do if you have two different sections is you can export it to a spreadsheet and merge the spreadsheets together so that you have a giant set of data for one particular group. So you can identify trends, you can keep the information, save it, send it to people in emails.
Right, and you know,
they do print very easily.
I've just always glanced at it for my own personal use, but now that potentially we're going to need to be sending this potentially to HR and so on and so forth, that we probably will have to, you know, either put it in spreadsheet form or, you know, PDF it or whatever and send it to, you know, the HR and so on and so forth if things start to get sticky.
Yeah, like, let's see, this practice exam here, I selected KHEF category. You can click view report, gives you all the categories, the analysis for everything. And then if you can print it in this form, or you can export it to an Excel spreadsheet. Now, since this one is humongous, what they do is they will generate the report and then they email it to you, usually within 24 hours. And I never had to wait more than 2 hours for this report. Okay. So this little icon here will export it to the Excel spreadsheet, which is an easier way to read these reports because it will drill them down by category than it is if you print it. For the item analysis, this one, again, can just be exported to the spreadsheet, or you can print it here. So anytime you see that, it'll pull it into an Excel spreadsheet.
Got it.
And it's editable, so you can eliminate columns if you don't want. You can resize things, and you can make it look visually like you want it to look.
Got it.
Then the student performance. Once you pull up the student performance one, there is a print button that you can just print and it'll print it in one long sheet for them. So, so again, this can go to the Excel spreadsheet if you want it in an electronic format, or you can click print which is what I would do at the end of each, boot camp, and put it in their student file.
Got it.
So also, it will show you the assignments in progress. So if they're working on something they haven't finished yet, it'll show you which attempts are still in progress.
Got it.
So if they say, well, I did the assignment, but I don't understand why I'm not seeing the grade, it could be that they didn't hit submit, and it'll show you in this area, and you can tell them, well, if you think you're done, just go in and click submit for everything. I think that's about it in the report. I'm glad you mentioned the printing.
Yeah, I've never printed anything, and to be honest with you, as soon as you brought the report up, I saw the buttons, and it just never really registered. So yeah, I knew it was all there. I just never used it.
Right. Like even if you go into the assignment results, you can pick which assignments you want. And then view a report. And it'll give you only those assignments with all of the students listed.
Mm-hmm.
So you could export those to a spreadsheet as well.
Okay.
This is what I used to do back when we had Blackboard and I didn't sync my Connect courses. I would just pull this up, put it in the spreadsheet, and then just put the grades in the Blackboard gradebook. But Canvas is so much easier. I love Canvas. Just extremely slow. So I will ask you at this point, do you have any other questions or anything else that you wanted to cover?
No, I think we're good. You reinforced a lot of the stuff that I was thinking along the lines of. Dr. Williams was already on the same page you were with in terms of the at-risk student report, and I, like I said, had never really done much with that, but that's a go-to. That'll be what I'll be looking at every morning, and probably in the afternoon and probably in the evening before I go to bed, every day with that. So that's a quick glance that can let us know. So no, I think I feel pretty good about the where we are right now, Amy. But I would say this: is there any chance I could just give you my cell phone number or whatever, and you could text me back or whatever in case we did need a hotline?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. What's your number?
804-761-7044.
I'd like to give you mine too.
Yeah.
704. But 804-761-7044.
Correct. That's Kerry. Kerry.
Okay. I will load you in, and then I will send you a text so you'll have my number.
Okay.
And also,
I'd
please feel free to email me directly if you like. If you have any questions, or like I said, if you pull together a checklist of, it's like an end of boot camp checklist with where students are, and you want me to eyeball it for you, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, it's good.
Any questions that you have whatsoever, please feel free to contact me directly. You don't have to go through Cindy for everything. I always like to eliminate the middleman where this is concerned, and we try to have some collaborative efforts and help people out, because you can potentially save several days.
Right.
That's coming right to the source. So.
Hey, Dr. Williams wants to pass her number on to you as well.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
It's 804-386-4332.
Okay, great. Thank you. When is your first boot camp starting?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Oh, boy.
A week
Well,
from
it sounds
today.
like you guys have a really great start. Having the course built and all kinds of good information. I think you're clearly on the right path, and sometimes it just helps to talk things out and brainstorm about the little things. You'll surely want to protect yourself.
Yes.
In the event that there are some students that disappoint.
Yeah, and we were not at the meeting with the hospital system, but there were definitely some very disgruntled employees at that because their jobs are going to be on the line, and the deadline is so close and everything like that. So yeah, I definitely am wanting to make sure that every contingency has been covered. So.
Yep. and you're a support for them and a resource for them, but you can't compromise your integrity either. You've got a job to do. They've got stuff to learn.
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's outside of our hands. It's not like we're making a test for them to pass. It's the National Health Career Association that they have to adhere to their guidelines. So
They may not realize that.
well, you mentioned that. That's a good idea. Yeah, we will definitely mention that this is third-party verification. This is not ECPI University verifying it. It is, another entity that has something on the order of 2,400, employee partners that, trust their ability to certify people in their fields. So by all means, yeah, we will make sure that is reiterated upon in that very first orientation session and probably every class after that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and another thing, I don't know what the requirements are for that credential as far as continuing education, but I would definitely set aside a little bit of time to talk about that with them. Tell them if you don't want to be back here, I don't know whether it's once a year or whatever.
It's
you
every
don't want to
2
be back
years.
here again doing another boot camp and another test, then you better keep up your credential.
Yeah.
And they can start it pretty early. They have 10 credits. They can go online, the same site with NHA, and they can start it early. And when it's time to recertify, if they do it early enough, like say 6 months or even a year, they'll get a discount. Otherwise, they have to pay the same amount as if you're taking the test, the first time. That's what gets to some
so
people.
Great information to pass on to them, because I can guarantee that some of them will take the test, pass the test, and think they're done for good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Save $1 a day.
Yeah.
You'll have the money by the test.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, Amy. Well, thank you so much for all your time.
I really enjoyed talking with you. You've been giving me some ideas that I've been considering something like this because I get calls all the time from people saying, "Hey, do you have a class?" So I think maybe like to do like a more of a boot camp rather than a 4 college credit class.
Correct.
But no promises being made of course.
Well, look. Yeah, no kidding. Well, look.
To get that out to my boss early if we ever did something like that.
I know.
Don't you dare.
I know that our administration wants to keep this very hush hush, close to the vest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've definitely done us a solid. So anyway, if you do look to build something like this for yourself, I'll share information. So by all means, I'd be glad to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it'll be.
Probably, wouldn't be for a while yet. And please know that anything we discuss would be absolutely 100% confidential.
Right.
Would never come out and say, "Hey, this
Right.
person that's doing this and that."
Right. That's why I've kept hush hush about the hospital system and all that stuff too, because just to try to keep it on the DL as much as possible. So anyhow, although they've been making all sorts of announcements about it, from what I understand. So again, so many mixed signals.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, let me say, there's so many things going on right now, so it wouldn't be anything on the immediate horizon. And but down the road, I'd like to know how it works for you, just to see if it's something that's a viable option for people who aren't credentialed yet.
Right.
Right now we're telling people that we have no options for you other than to take the program over again.
Right.
If you want to get something through us, but
well, technically,
that's not always a great answer.
Technically everybody here, they had. I assume now. I honestly have not asked, so I better not put my foot in my mouth. But they would have had to have petitioned the NHA to make sure that they were, in fact, going to meet their criteria for, to sit for this certification. So, granted, work experience can be levied to, give them evidence to grant you an opportunity to sit for the test.
Right.
So again, but I have not asked that. I mean, there may be some people in here who really aren't even qualified to be sitting, but I would have hoped that they would have done it legitimately so everybody sitting in front of us is, truly deserves to be there.
Well, some of their
And,
criteria.
at the end of the day, if they can find it within themselves to learn this stuff, then more power to them.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
There's some.
They gotta learn it, and they have to do it, and if they don't, well, then they're clearly not ready
Right.
for that. So, well, I really enjoyed talking with you both.
Well, thanks,
I
Amy.
apologize that we went over, but
Oh, no.
we talked about a lot of great things.
I definitely need a little bit more reassurance. It's getting closer by the minute, so I need that little bit extra reassurance.
Yeah, I know you guys are going to do a great job. You have an awesome handle on things already, and you know the things to look for and the things to really hammer home, and I can tell you're committed. So that will be your best friend.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You're doing everything right.
All right, Amy. Well, we will touch base here in the not too distant future.
Okay, great. Well, good luck, both of you, and look forward to hearing from you.
All righty.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Okay,
Have a
thanks.
good afternoon.
Okay, bye-bye.
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 You too, bye-bye.
As far as meeting the criteria, you can't. It can't be greater than 5 years since you graduated from an institution where you earned your diploma or associate's degree, or you can't have been out of the field more than a year. So since everyone is currently working a boxer course, they meet the criteria of the 1 year in the field.
Right.
But if you had somebody who's coming off the street, like I was always concerned about students who didn't pass the certification, finished school, didn't pass certification, finished school, didn't get a job, went back to Taco Bell or whatever was comfortable for them.
Right.
And then they tried years later, and as long as NHA didn't ask, then it's like, okay, that's good, yay. But it's really an honor system, because when you're filling it out, you're saying, yes, I'm meeting the criteria, just like when you're recertifying through the the Board of Health on mail-in. You're saying that I've done, I can attest that I've done such and such and such, and why I can sit for this or recertify or whatever. I'm sure Bonser Course has probably gone